Hey, hey, hey. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. Listen, I am so glad y'all are here. I got a grand dog like a month ago, and he's fantastic. He's a red Doberman pincher, and in the month, he has gained 10 pounds. Now, if you happen to know my son is a disciplinarian. He's a disciplinarian about what he puts in his body. He's a disciplinarian about how much he moves his body. He's a disciplinarian about his time, his social media access, his boundaries. He is just a disciplined person. I'm sure there's a couple of things he's not disciplined about, but I don't know what those are. Well, when he got the dog, he said, Mom, um, he is incredibly smart. He needs lots of training, and you don't want to do things that you think are cute now, but that at 120 pounds will be incredibly painful. Well, I was like, boy, bye. This is my grand dog, and I'm gonna treat it like a grandchild. So whenever the dog would come over, I'm like, come on, Pete. And he'd just run over and jump all over me, be in my lap, because I'm trying to get pictures so I can post on social media, so I can get some likes, so I can get my little dopamine fix, right? And he's looking at me, my son, and he's like this. Because when he calls the dog, who I have affectionately named Pete, the dog stops, comes, sits, does not move, follows all of his little instructions, does his little games. Me, I don't ever put Pete in the cage. I let him run all around. I love it when he's in my lap, all the things. So I was out of town all last week. I come back. Pete has now grown at least an inch, and he is probably 5 more pounds than I saw him last. So he comes running at me. I'm trying to take a picture. I'm excited. The one thing I did wrong, I was probably more excited to see the dog than I was to see my child. I gotta get that together before I get grandkids. Anyway, so Pete knocks me over. The dog knocks me over, and my son. I told you that you shouldn't start doing things that are not going to work when he's 120 pounds. So I'm like, boy, whatever. So I pull out my phone. I'm trying to take a picture, and I call his name so he can turn around so I can take a picture. And Pete takes that paw. Now the paw is almost like this big, right? It's like this big, and he hits me in the face, and I swore he busted my lip. And now I'm looking at my son going, we had a difference of opinion, but based on the outcome, you are probably right. Now, what did that cause me to think about this week? Well, when we start talking about disagreements versus danger, what if the disagreement wasn't about like how you train a dog? I mean, after all, the dog doesn't live with me. He lives with my son. We can agree to disagree on this. The dog is only here for a temporary time. If I don't do what he asks, I'm the one who suffers, not my son. So the disagreement is not high stakes. But what if the disagreement is about whether or not you should rescue dogs versus get a dog from a breeder? Is it still disagreement? I would argue it is. But what if it's about whether or not we want to fight this Doberman pinscher in dog fighting competitions? Is that disagreement or is that danger? What if I decide that dogs are delicious and I'm hungry, so we should eat the dog? Is that disagreement or is that danger? You see, as we have started to create what I call false equivalencies, almost everything is starting to become, hey, why don't we just agree to disagree? But I would argue that there's a difference between disagreements about opinions and vastly dangerous differences of understanding as it relates to values. You see, should we have, or should any country have, immigration laws? Yeah. The extent to which you enforce those is widely different. But should you be separating children from their families? We learned this in 2020, putting them in cages with aluminum foil blankets And now today, there's over 100 of those kids you still can't find their parents. Is that a disagreement or is that dangerous? The degree to which you decide you want to be religious or nominally religious, or you follow the faith tradition of your parents, or you follow a different faith tradition, opinions. I would argue that many of the Abrahamic texts are almost exactly the same. There have been many studies shown where people don't even know the difference between what was said in the Torah versus the Quran versus the Bible. But if I want to kill you because of your religious belief or lack thereof, is that disagreement or is that danger? Should we feed poor people? Should we try to house poor people? That seems like that's a value discussion that can absolutely end up being dangerous because people don't know where the line is. You start saying, well, I'm going to break the cycle of poverty, but you just going to turn off all social support services. What do you think is going to happen in our communities if you do that? If you decide that you are not going to teach English language learners things that they need to learn English, you don't want them to be able to go to school, you don't want them to be able to be vaccinated, what do you think happens to the larger society when you start to do that? Is this a difference of opinion? And why do we have governments, except for governments help us to stay between the boundaries on things? This idea that you should be able to say whatever you want to say, regardless of what it is. I wrote about this once. It's like planting weeds purposefully in a garden of things you're trying to grow for food. Why would you do that? Why would you choke out your food? And who is going to keep us from doing so? Because clearly, left to our own vices, I don't know if we know that you shouldn't bomb children. What evidence do we have of that? Because recently, one of the Greensboro Four died. Yesterday, in fact, he was 83 years old. He was sitting at the counter, at the Woolworth counter, trying to get food that he was not allowed to him because he was Black. Now, maybe you don't like how that protest happens. That's your opinion. But the point at which people start pouring stuff on his head and hitting him, dangerous. And I am starting to believe that people don't know where the line is. So that's why you've got to have rules. And who taught me this better than anybody else except for my own son? Because he like, you know what? He was practicing the let them theory, honey. My lip just bleeding. It just is big. Thank God I heal fast. So now I'm trying to be like, okay, it's only been a month. How do I course correct so that when the dog sees me, the dog doesn't automatically run my way, knock me over? Because when I see him again, he's probably going to be another 5 pounds. And some of our differences of opinions are just like that. We end up with busted lips. Okay, fine. You think it's okay to be able to put people in jail because they poor and ain't got cash bail? Go for it. What you gonna think? What you think gonna happen while they're in there? What you think gonna happen when they get out? What kind of societal issues do you believe we have when people lose their jobs because they were in jail? Let me tell you what people, by and large, are not doing. People are not engaging in general in violent crime because they just want to. It's typically an act of desperation. Meanwhile, the majority of folks in our country commit crimes all the time, all the time. And we just don't seem to think of it as thuggish, ruggish, bonish at all. There's a difference between disagreements of opinion versus dangerous disagreements or dangerous topics. You tell me that I should not share what happened historically, and you believe that that is an opinion, and everybody has a right to their opinion. Meanwhile, you get to share the history of what has happened to you. Maybe, maybe, but I'm going to stand up and say, every time you try to act like you can disagree on a fact, you show me where it wasn't true. You give me one example of a happy slave. You give me one example of a person who was fighting for your right to even exist. And show me it wasn't that bad. Show me. Show me that it taught resilience. Because I would argue if I go to work every day, or if I'm just living every day, let my challenges be, folk get sick, folk have relationship problems, folks have money, just general money problems, folks have folks have challenges where they wrestle with the Lord. People have that. But why do you feel like I need to just be okay with the fact that you're going to put racism on top of it, that you're going to put sexism on top of it, that you're going to put sexual assault even on top of it? Like, why the world is Lawrence Taylor on the stage with the president of the United States talking about working with children? The man is a registered sex offender. Is that a difference of opinion? How do you push this concept of meritocracy when people are being put in place with like the least amount of qualifications for the roles they had? Difference of opinion? I know what it is. I'm calling it hypocrisy. It's Filter Free Friday, y'all. We got work to do.